Hi everyone, Greeno here and welcome to another video here on my Greeno Eats channel. Now today it's another budget meal special where I'm putting together what's hopefully a decent meal for less than £1 a portion. Today it's a bit of a winter warmer. We're going to have a cheesy leek and potato soup with homemade croutons and a cheese toastie to go alongside it. All for less than £1 a portion. Let's go and have a look at the ingredients, shall we? So of course a major ingredient of this soup is leeks, and I've actually got some frozen leeks here. These are perfect for making soup out of. I wouldn't necessarily use them for like a leek side dish on a normal meal or anything, but for soup they're perfect. And we've got 500 grams of potatoes here. Over here we have 200 grams of cheddar cheese, half of which is grated. That's going to go in the soup. The other half is going to be retained for the toasties. We have vegetable stock here. I've used 2 Tesco vegetable stock cubes and made up 500 ml of stock here, as you can see. We've got 200 ml of milk there in lieu of cream, just to add a little bit more of a dairy flavour into the soup. And here are the croutons. These are homemade croutons. Now I made these out of a Tesco kind of cheese loaf that I'd got as a yellow sticker special, and I've used 100 grams of that, just cooked it up in the pan, nice and kind of long and slow, and they make these lovely crispy croutons that also are a little bit cheesy as well. And that's it, that's all we need. Now the ingredients for this you'll see on screen now, and as you'll see at the bottom, in total I've costed this to come to £3.98, including a little bit for oil and seasoning and stuff. So less than £1 a portion, because this is going to feed 4. Oh, there's bread too. Don't forget the bread. Hard to make a toastie without that. Just normal Tesco white bread we're using for that. And I've actually got quite a lot of these croutons made, so let's just try one on its own first. As you can probably hear, very crispy and crunchy. Nice kind of toasted flavour. And quite a prominent cheesy taste there too, so that's going to complement this soup really well. Now, talking of the soup, if we take a look here, I've put leeks in the pan. First thought is I might need a bigger pan, but they're going to sweat down a little bit first. Then we'll add the potato and the stock and let it all boil up a bit. Now this is actually going to be a smooth soup. So what we'll be doing, once the potatoes are boiled and softened down a little bit, we'll get into the pan with a stick blender. Obviously there should be enough liquid in there. We might add some of the milk just to cool it down a little before we start, but there should be liquid enough that you can blend it pretty easily with a stick blender and get a really nice smooth consistency. That's what we're looking for. Then we add the cheese in. Oh yes. Right, panic over about the size of the pan. I think we're all right. The leeks, as they started to sweat down, have obviously created a bit more space in there. And I've added the potato in there now, so we just need that to cook up a little bit. But what we need for that to happen is to add in the stock, and obviously that will boil up and cook the potatoes. Now, like I say, I've used 2 vegetable stock cubes here. There we go, get all of that in there. And that should give a nice flavour and a bit of seasoning too. So I've added a crack of pepper in when the leeks were sweating down, but I've not added any salt because there should be some salt coming from this stock. Plus, of course, we're going to be adding cheese in later on, which is a salty component in itself. So we just need to let this boil up until the potatoes are nice and tender, and then it's blitzing time. Now obviously I've made a few of these kind of budget meal videos recently, but pretty much with like some processed food ingredients in there, like the Iceland burger one, for example, or the Iceland fish fillets. This is obviously more homemade, so let me know in the comments section below if you'd like to see more videos like this where I'm actually home cooking some of this stuff. Obviously I'll still do some of the stuff that I find in the supermarkets that's kind of quick, easy, cheap filling meals for the family, but also if we can cook up some of these homemade meals, that's got to be better for you, hasn't it? So as you can see, this is starting to thicken up a little bit. The potato is starting to break down. Now, if you dice the potato a little bit smaller, you can kind of eat it like this. But like I say, I'd prefer to have it as a smooth soup. So I'm just going to wait for that to cool down a little bit before I get the stick blender in there. There is nothing worse than putting a stick blender into there, whizzing it up when it's boiling hot and it splurts on you. You don't want to get burnt making this, that's for sure. So we'll just give that a couple of minutes and then it's blending time. Now I don't know how loud this is going to be. Pretty loud I would guess, but we just get that into the soup and we start to blitz it up. Now, of course, at this point, if you need to add more liquid in order to get a smooth consistency, you can. I think we should be all right here, but I have got the milk at the ready should I need it. Of course, a couple of reasons why it's best to try and make it as thick as you can. It's easier to thin soup than to thicken it. So if you put too much liquid, it's very, very difficult to thicken a soup compared to just putting a bit more in if it's too thick. And for storage, the thicker it is, the less space it takes up in the fridge. So I've given this a good 3 or 4 minutes of blending, and as you can see, it's coming to a really nice smooth consistency now. I did add in about half of the milk just to help loosen it a little bit. It was getting a bit thick. But what we need to do now is get a little bit of heat back under there again, bring it back up to a temperature, and then it's time to add the cheese in. This is cheesy leek and potato soup after all. Okay, so this is coming back up to a simmer again, which is pretty much what we want, and it's time to add in some of the cheese. Now we're going to do this a little bit at a time. Don't want to put it all in one go. Just sprinkle that over the top, and hopefully the heat of the soup should just melt this. We might need to blend it again, possibly, but like I say, the heat of the soup might just take care of it for us. Doesn't that look good? And here's the finished soup. So look how silky and smooth that is. And it smells delicious. It really does. Now, I've made this about 3:30 in the afternoon. We're having it for dinner tonight. So we'll have to come back when I'm ready to make the cheese toasties to go with it. Nice, kind of light evening meal. This would make a really good lunch as well, like on a weekend or something like that. Yeah, this is a nice and vegetarian option. Now, normally if I'm making this soup at home, I would use chicken stock. I just think it gives a little bit of a better flavour. So of course you can substitute the veg stock for chicken stock. Quite often we make our own chicken stock here. If we roast a chicken for a meal, we'll keep the bones and just boil them up in a pot and use that to make chicken stock. The little tubs you get of the liquid stuff are just as good, but they're more expensive than the cubes, of course. I've used the cubes because they're the cheapest option to get it into budget. So that's where we're at in this series, trying to find ways to save money. So anyway, like I said, I'm going to come back when we're ready to make the cheese toasties, and then we'll give it all a try. Can't wait. Right, so we've reached evening time, and it is time to get the toasted cheese sandwiches going. So like I said, it's just normal sliced white bread. There's 25 grams of grated cheese in each of these. So just get the lid on and get them cooked up. Nearly done. You can see that little bit of cheese oozing out there. That's going to give a nice little bit of burnt cheese flavour, isn't it? Yummy. So here we go, folks. This is the finished dinner. So we have this lovely cheesy potato and leek soup, which is very, very nice and kind of silky. We have the cheese toasted sandwich, and also a nice portion of those cheesy croutons that I cooked up earlier. Let's get them dunked into the soup and get this tasted. And there we go. A little crack of black pepper and the croutons, or at least some of them, added into the soup. So time to give it a try. Like I say, it's a very nice, silky, kind of velvety soup. There we go. It's going to drip everywhere over the kitchen floor if I do that. Nice and thick. The kind of soup that kind of sticks to your lungs, you know. Keeps the cold out on winter's evenings. Got a lovely fresh flavour. Leek and potato is a great combination for soup, isn't it? I'd say that veggie stock in there obviously had some different kind of herbs and bits and bobs in it. Adds to the flavour. And the cheese in there adds not just to the flavour but to the texture of the soup as well. Yeah, that's good. Yum, yum, yum. Now, if I was making this not on a budget thing, I probably would have added a bit more cheese. I like it really, really cheesy. But I guess it's a bit healthier this way, isn't it? And it's really good. Of course, to go with it, we have the cheese toastie. Everyone had one of these toastie makers in the 80s, didn't they? Probably went a little while without having one, but now I got one. So it toasts the outside and obviously melts whatever's inside, normally to kind of thermonuclear temperatures, so I've got to be careful. That cheese melts beautifully in there. And again, if I wasn't on a budget thing, would I add more flavours into here? Possibly so. Cheese and onion, cheese and tomato, cheese and ham. But just a cheese one is quite nice. And of course, the one thing that you definitely can do, dunk it in the soup. Oh yeah, that's good. So let me know in the comments section down below what you think about this recipe. Is it something you'd try out yourself? Anything you'd tweak in the recipe? Like I say, I've kind of pared things down a little bit to how I would normally make this to make it a budget meal. I'm not saying it's not tasty. It could be tastier if I added more things. Anything good when you're on a budget kind of thing, isn't it? But for the price I've made this for, it's a really, really tasty meal. A great lunch on a cold winter's afternoon. A really nice kind of light supper. You can't go wrong. I think this is a winner. So I hope you've enjoyed this little episode where I've made this leek and potato soup with a cheese toastie and cheesy croutons, all for less than £1 a portion. If you have enjoyed it, don't forget, click a thumbs up on there for me. It does help with the channel. And if you're new around here and you like what you've seen, why not consider clicking the subscribe button, ding your little bell for notifications, and you won't miss anything that comes up on the channel. Right, I'm off to sit down with the family and finish the rest of this off. I'll catch you on the next one. Bye for now.